Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digi-Tools and Accrual World podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Pearcy, and I'm joined by the amazing Leigh Stallard this week. We've got his insights to help us dissect some app news. But before I bring him in and ask how his week or a couple of weeks have been, I just want to do a shout out to our show sponsor, which is Scoro. They are a PSA. I'm never good at calling it a PSA. I call it an advanced project management system, but they refer to themselves as a PSA. But essentially, it's all about managing the projects for service-based businesses, so time capture, job management, and it works really well across multi-entity and I guess multi-service levels. So if you're doing retainers, if you're doing jobs, if you're doing long-scale projects, it works very well. And that, in fact, I like it so much, I use it at Digital Transformers Group. So yeah, big fan of Scoro. But we're going to be talking about lots of things today. Before any of that though, Leigh, how are you, mate? How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Ryan. It's been a really fast January. I don't know if you found the same. People tend to moan and talk about it being the 47th of January or whatever, but I found it's flown by this year. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've got kids, right? So it either crawls or it's an incredible speed. You look back and go, where's that year gone? And by the time it's like this day is dragging on. Yeah, time is variable for me. What I would say, though, it feels slow from a tech release perspective. I would be expecting to see a lot. They promised a lot, and we still haven't seen that much. So we're going to be diving into some topics a bit later. But yeah, I want to see more. Come on, software vendors, bring us more stuff.
Yeah, give them a bit of time to get back after Christmas Day. And I suppose with the events, only a couple of months around the corner, they might be saving some of those announcements up for that potentially.
Well, that's a very good point, actually. I always forget that they go, okay, we've got stuff, but we can't talk about it. We have to wait, and there's a big release. It's usually when acquisitions start happening as well. They always like to announce something at like an Accountex or an alternative tech conference. Are you going to be attending any shows this year?
Yeah, I'll be coming down for a few. So I'm going to be in at the Alternative Events show on the 3rd of March, although I'll be there for the 3rd, but it runs, I think, 3rd, 4th. And obviously we'll be at Accountex North because we've got the awards the day before. So that's a long way away. What about you?
Yeah, I'm also going to the Alternative Tech Conference. I signed up late this year. Normally I sign up pretty early, but I saw a reminder come around. I've forgotten to get my ticket, so I'm doing that. I think it's one of the best events out there. It's quite restrictive, so not everyone can attend, but it really goes down into kind of deep insights and really good conversations about what's happening in the tech world. So it's very different, I guess, the standard conferences like Digital Cancer Show, Accountex, where lots of stands and then sporadic talks. This is lots of talks and then just a few supporting sponsors and stands. But yeah, really great 2 days. And if you've never been there and you or you have been there but you've never gone to the evening, make sure you do. That's where I find the best conversations come out. Or you talk to vendors and you get some really deep insights, or you talk to others that are other accounting firms, other I guess consultants in the space, and really learn what they're doing and how they're, I guess, leading the way and doing some cutting edge stuff. So it'd be good to see you, Leigh, at that conference.
Yeah, definitely. I've been there once as a sponsor, as a vendor, sort of sat on the stand all day, which is nice, but you don't get to see any of the content. So I'm looking forward to seeing it from a different perspective this time. Viewers should keep their ears out there because we're going to do a pre-event special podcast to give everybody a bit of a preview and a rundown and go through some of the things to expect and look out for there. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that.
Sounds cool. Yeah, excited for that. All right, look. Well, I think we should probably crack on and talk about some of the news topics that have been coming out for the last week or so. And I think I'm going to kick this one off, if you don't mind, Leigh.
Go for it.
So I've got something from A2X. Now, we've talked about A2X a few times on the show, but they generally have been something that they kind of released some great tech a long time ago, and then they've not really needed to do much because it does. It's like Ronseal, right? It does exactly what it says on the tin. It connects into multiple e-commerce channels and standardizes the data and pulls it into your finance system. It means that you do not need to type anything in. Handles all the digital links and automates what is a very complex area, especially when you're trying to match receipts against sales across multiple channels. But something that they have done, and admittedly, I think I picked this up a bit late because it was more towards the end of 2025. Is the way they operate is not only do they bring in the sales, but they can also calculate your cost of goods sold transaction at the same point. So depending on how you've been operating your finance system, you might be used to the way of posting a purchase directly into your profit and loss, and then at the end of each month adjusting for a stock value. Now that's not the way you should be doing it, and if you are doing that, my apologies for stating that, but you only ever know your profit and loss at the end of a period, be that a month when you do your journal. The most effective way for a real-time profit and loss is you post your purchase to a stock code, and then when you make your sale, the cost of goods gets removed from your inventory and put into your profit and loss at the same time of the sale, creating your profit on that individual item. Reiterate that or do that over all the things you're selling, and you get a real-time view and a real-time inventory value. Now and again, you have to make some adjustments just to make sure that you've allowed for any lost or depleted or damaged stock. But generally, you're getting a real-time inventory value as well. And something that A2X has done for a while is do that calculation. You can put in your purchase values into A2X, and when then you sell the product, it will do the cost of goods sold adjustment at the same time. But something it hadn't been doing, and I think this is quite common around these kind of connector tools, is it wasn't doing this for refunds. So you would have your, debit to the sales code, removing the sale when you've done the refund, but you wouldn't be removing cost of goods sold. So this then skews your profit and loss for anything when you've got a refund, because now your costs are overstated. Something that brought in is the automatic adjustment for that. So when you are now doing a refund and the transaction essentially has gone out, it will automatically bring that refunded cost of goods sold adjustment back into your finance system. Now, that does it on the refund date. So depending on how you want that to work, that may not be perfect time, but it's still better than doing nothing. And it's, doing a merger. So your cost of goods sold journal now, if you've got multiple transactions going through the entire day, because normally you have a journal that goes through daily, and you'll have a merger inside that adjustment of all sales and refunds for your cost of goods sold. It's not huge, but critical if you're going to be having these automatic journals, taking stuff out of stock and putting it into your P&L.
Yeah, A2X is a really nice example of a company that just does one thing really well. And they seem to have had their own way for a lot of years. I don't know that there's anyone really in that space that are challenging them at this point. Is there anyone you've come across, Ryan?
There are challenges out there. I don't think they've got as good a brand as A2X. So Dex Commerce is a brilliant example where it's a really powerful system. It used to be called Greenback before Dex bought it. But because it was a different system, similar to, Xero and HubDog, they hadn't, merged or blended it in instantly. And so you can do a lot of customization. They will do a lot of work with you for something that's complex. But it doesn't feel like it's in the system. You've got like Dex Commerce Lite that can do simple things. But if you've got anything regarding multi-channel, or you want to do like cost of goods sold adjustment or auto reconciliation of receipts against sales, that's something that you need to go direct to them, and they've not moved out and migrated that platform into the full Dex suite, which I believe is happening early 2026. So hopefully we'll be able to break that on app news soon.
Interesting. Moving on from that, we've got iplicit. Sam Curtis has been promoted to VP of Education. It's in the iplicit for Education division. So that's a separate subsidiary that launched in around 2023. And Sam's got a load of experience. Seems like she's the perfect person for this because of her experience in Iris and involvement in educational organisations at a fairly senior level. Just seems like iplicit are going from strength to strength at the moment, just trying to knock everything out the park at once. And what are you making this one, Ryan?
Yeah, Sam is a legend to some extent. iplicit been there, built out the training system for accounting partners, and then obviously due to her experience, they now want to use her skill set to build out another area and make that really, really advanced as well. And I know iplicit have that focus on education. I've been in discussion actually with an accounting firm recently where, from a digital transformers group perspective, we want to help their clients. We flagged iplicit as a growing system in the mid-tier space for those that, those academies, those schools that outgrow, the zeros, stage 50s, the bottom end of the market. iplicit's a really good system out there, and because they've now focused on education and they've brought Sam in, I think it makes sense to have that conversation. And kind of have an alternative, so that if you've got these bigger clients, they're not having to stay on legacy systems. Because I'm a trustee at a multi-academy trust, and there's so many trusts out there that are on really outdated mechanical manual systems. There's so much automation, so many benefits of doing a transition to a more modern system now that it's not a focus, right? They're focused on education. Unless someone inside the school understands what can be done and drives it, or they've got that accountant or auditor pushing it as well, they're going to be stuck where they are and not really getting the benefit from more modern systems, automation and streamlining, which is what you need to do to minimize your costs when you're working in a not-for-profit sector.
So ironically, an education drive required then in the education sector, so that people know that there's a solution there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love the way you point that out.
Next up, we've got Acumatica. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Ryan? I've never come across these guys before. Is that right, Acumatica?
You are indeed right.
Excellent.
It's not a system we talk a lot about, to be fair.
Yeah. So John Pollock has been appointed as their Chief Product Officer, which is a big hire for them. John's got a lot of experience in Sage, and I did a little bit of digging around. So they're an ERP system, and primarily based out of the US, but recently transitioned into the UK around 2021. They've got investors from Vista. I don't know if you've come across these before. I might be showing my ignorance, but Vista have also got stakes or outright ownerships in lots of other tech products. And so looking at this, I just wonder if they're trying to take on the likes of Access by just building this suite of products and then bringing that to market and trying to integrate them more closely, which is sort of the antithesis of what we've seen so far in the cloud space, where you've got all these different solutions that play nicely to each other. I just wonder if that's a bit of a play for them. But he's going to bring that background from Sage and also Microsoft to drive this product forward. So we may be hearing a little bit more about Acumatica in the coming months and years, but possibly a bit of a threat to the likes of iplicit and Xledger potentially. But yeah, Ryan, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen anything at all from these guys with the folks that you're working with?
Yeah, they're niche, I'd go, and that's probably why we don't end up talking about them too much. If I try and set the scene on this, in the mid-tier space, you generally have Accounts IQ, which is just that step above, like the Xeros, the QuickBooks Online, the Sages. Then above that, you generally have iplicit and Sage Intacct. Intacct, I think, would like themselves to be a little bit higher, but I always kind of put them together. And then you've got Xledger, all just above that, all focused more on finance. Acumatica is then going more into full ERP, so starting to rival the likes of NetSuite, but from my memory, in specific sectors that it works really well on. Don't quote me on it, but it might be things like construction. Now, them bring in, I guess, a new chief product officer. When any system brings or has a change in the space, I always find that the whole vision changes, right? So how they're rolling stuff out. Think about Stephen Edison and Dext. They were a stable business, and then it's gone crazy, and they're just reinventing the world with what you could do with Dext now.
Yeah, 100%. So it'd be interesting to see what they come out with, whether they break out of those small niches or start to maybe come down market a little bit and sort of threaten for that. Maybe they, might have a bit of a sniff like we talked about in the pre-Christmas session with the API charges starting to have an effect in the space in the coming months. It may end up being more cost effective for people to move to a bigger system rather than try and use or continue to use Xero and bring in different apps to support. So, yeah, interesting space. We'll watch it closely and bring any updates as they happen.
Yeah, and you make a very good point, because Sage Intacct in the back end of 2025 released Sage Intacct Essentials to do exactly the same thing. Try and come down and get and secure those clients that I guess found a little bit of a gap between the Sage accounting level and then Sage Intacct, which is a big beast really. It's kind of, they're trying to fill that gap, but no, really good. I've got something pretty small, I think, but lots of huge potential. And it's more of a teaser at this point because I don't know too much of the detail on. And that is that Crezco has launched Pay by Card. It's in early access, so I don't think everyone can get into it at the moment. But for those that are unaware, Crezco essentially powers Xero Pay. So anytime you're making a payment to suppliers through Xero, you are using the Crezco engine, and it's using open banking, so from bank to bank. Now, Pay by Card coming through Crezco allows, I guess, them to broaden the ability to operate into the space where, I guess, Stripe's been owning that for a long time. So the ability for people to pay by credit card, debit card, rather than just a bank transfer. It increases flexibility. Now, the one thing I do know that they're going to do is they're going to be charging it at 2.9% of the payment value. I mean, I've not done a review of the system, I guess, of this space to know if that's high or low, but that's what they're stating they're going in with no setup fees and no commitments. So it's kind of a play, try, and you might want to just add it as an option, advertise or send to your clients the normal way of paying, which may be cheaper, and have card as a premium thing to go, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a hit here, but I need it as that option to get money in the easiest and fastest way I possibly can. Once again, I don't know too much about the detail on it. I did have a chat with Crezco not that long ago, but they were more, I think, exploring what's the opportunity, how many businesses will want this, how many will engage, does the price point fit to some extent? I think they were talking to lots of accountants. So listeners, you may already have had that conversation with Crezco. But I think it's worth exploring purely because they're becoming, I guess, the powerhouse for a lot of other systems. They want to offer out, I guess, the Crezco platform to power a lot of other businesses. They've always had that deep relationship with Xero for a long time. I thought at some point Xero would buy them, and because the relationship was so deep, but we've not seen that happen. So yeah, I think they're now building up functionality.
Yeah, interesting the context of the Molly and GoCardless acquisition a couple of months ago or a month or so ago as well. This really seems to be hotting up in this space, doesn't it, around just people trying to get after the card processing fees. I remember once when I was back at Soldo, when we were thinking about how we went to market with it, one of the ideas, and we didn't go with it in the end, was that we would try and offer Soldo as an MTD solution. So we'd say, well, actually give this to all of your sole trader clients, get them to spend all of their money on this card, and then you've automatically captured all of the spend for the bookkeeping. So as a way to just smooth that out. I was terrified that Dex would do the same thing, but fortunately they didn't. And then offer the card for free. And then you just kind of monetize it through the transaction processing fees. Never came to pass, but there's a lot of money to be made in there in that arena.
Yeah, really good link, mate.
So coming up next, we've got a couple of updates from Briefcase. So speaking of people that have been badgering away and have been working over Christmas, Ruben is one of them. And so they've released a nice little feature where they've added autopilot for sales transactions. So they've had autopilot for receipts and purchases before, and they've now switched it on for sales. And this opens up, I think, a really interesting go-to-market route for accounting products. One of the things that we experience at Xero is that where you've got an accountant that's just recommending it to clients, the rate at which you can influence that sale and grow is much slower because you're waiting for an opportunity. Where we found a lever to accelerate growth was by offering Xero as a bookkeeping tool. So for where they're doing bookkeeping for a client, they could just have discretion to just use it themselves, and they would benefit from the time saving thing. So it was a more simple sale. One of the things that was missing on that, though, was sales processing, because if you've got a client that's just writing sales invoices out or they're using a different system, that effectively just becomes another transaction to try and process, and you couldn't then use a Dex or receipt bank at the time to process it. So having the sales processing in there, if you've still got people that are absolutely resistant to using accounting software, could be a really interesting addition for the likes of bookkeepers who've still got to get that stuff processed but want to systemize it with a resistant client. So nice feature in its own right, but I think strategically it could open up a couple of interesting conversations off the back of that. But Ryan, what's your take?
I'll be honestly, I'm trying to remember what autopilot is in Briefcase. Is it essentially where you've got? Oh, there you go. Go.
Checks the transactions that are coming in, so it makes sure that they're valid. Let me go and find the release for it. So it's document legibility, completeness of data extraction, and consistency with historical patterns. So it checks those before publishing transactions into the system.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, a beautiful thing about Briefcase, obviously, it's built kind of on AI. So it's got the ability to read the documents a lot faster and with a lot more context. I mean, that's something that, the likes of the Dex in this world have had to try and adapt to, because they were all kind of, it was just based on workflow. Has this client or supplier come in before? If so, what do we do and how do we extract it, apply that? This now is smarter, the likes of Briefcase. I believe Dex has kind of adapted its system to also work in that way now. But Dex for ages has had sales. Dex has always had, I say always, that's wrong, but for a long time has had sales extraction. And I still use this for clients because they will be on a different system, something that doesn't necessarily connect in, more legacy, but they're like, okay, well, we still need digital links in place and we want to automate the processing as much as possible. We don't have to retype everything, which so many businesses do. So the ability to especially if this legacy system is sending stuff out by email, copy in an email in address with your sales invoice, extracts the relevant stuff and pushes it in, I think is a big plus. The other brilliant thing about Briefcase, which I think is going to really help for sales, is because of that context, looking at like tracking categories, so departments, cost centers, etc., is a powerful element of it. I don't know if it's going to be in this release, but I know that's what they built into the purchase side. So if they're doing that with sales, which is usually now what businesses want from the ability to slice data for their reporting on a much more granular level, I think this is going to be a big win for them. And also it just, they need to become, to some extent, more on parity with the big beasts in this world, such as Dex, so that if they're trying to take those clients and show, where they differentiate, they're not having to go, we don't have that. No, okay, we don't have that. They go, yes, we do have that. We have these other function areas inside the product because it's newer. It's not had the same length of time to build out as much functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting about what Briefcase are doing is that they're adding functionality to get to parity, like you say, with the likes of Dex. But they're also going beyond. So we had the story a week or two ago, didn't we, of them starting to bring in HMRC's guidance on VAT treatment as well. So really interesting to see how they're going after the market by bringing that stuff into parity. Because like you say, it becomes a blocker if someone's workflow depends on something and you don't have it in your product. But also then trying to innovate and bring in new things as well looks really interesting. But on that parity topic for Briefcase, and especially with comparison against Dex, they've brought in line item categorisation and grouping as well, which is something that for a long time people were asking Receipt Bank for, and I think then it was a paid add-on, and now of course it's a standard feature. Briefcase have added that in up to 20 items. So invoices are fewer than 20 line items can be categorized individually, which again, just nice little touch, nice little thing to add in there and bring that parity up. But yeah, it looks like they're really working hard and probably need to let someone have a bit of a break if they've been building so much product over the Christmas break.
Yeah. No one gets a rest. No one gets to celebrate New Year. You have to keep writing code. But no, I mean, they're great. They're great. And I think it's led from the top, right? When Ruben is out there coding as well and doing stuff on the fly, I think that it inspires the rest of the team to keep out bringing out products, because you don't want to let your boss always kind of do the best things, do you?
Definitely. Well, speaking of that, there was as a sort of a side point, there was an interesting post from Ruben a few days ago where he's talked about how he's rebuilt their website, I think from scratch, with no coding or design experience. And it took him 2 weeks, 782 million tokens and 375 quid to completely redo the Briefcase website. And it looks great. So he said he used Cursor. The tools that he used was Cursor. It was mostly Opus 4.5, some Gemini Pro 3, and a little bit of GPT 5.1, and then Claude Code Opus 4.5. So really interesting how he's skipping between different products to build the site, and gives a breakdown on this post, which I'll stick a link to in the podcast notes.
No, that's amazing. I think what's also amazing was it 72 million tokens. It was only £375. Is that right?
782 million tokens and 375.
Oh wow! Price of a token is like pathetic, right?
Yeah,
it was kind of like through. It feels like a hyperinflation moment from a token perspective. Like that, we need to just start, reset and start at a higher level. No, I mean it's nuts. It's nuts what you can do, and we're starting to see more and more of this. I think the problem for a lot of individuals is you just listed a load of AI, and it's quite clear that Ruben understands what to do in what AI tools to maximize it. Whereas I guess the layman coming to this would be like, I don't even know the names of the AI tools or where I should go for what. So he's obviously not starting at a zero baseline here, but they're still creating something from scratch over a weekend that looks amazing for a business that's now properly established and got an engaged client base. You're not just building the first website; you're doing something that has to impress. I think it's just insane.
Yeah, and these websites, it's not a simple website either. It's got animations and like everything he's built in there. It's from scratch. It's crazy. And I think this just hints at what the world would look like between the AI haves and have-nots over the next 10 years, right? People that know the names of these tools are going to have an enormous advantage over the people that don't, because you don't know what you don't know, right? Just knowing the right questions to ask. So, really interesting practical example of this stuff.
Yeah, well, maybe this is something we have to apply to digital disruptors as well. Watch this space. We'll see if we can get our AI-powered website up. So I'm going to wrap up this week's show with my final bit of news, which is from FYI. Now, they have done something that I guess on paper looks pretty basic, but I think it's incredibly powerful. And that's what I love about our ability to talk about the news topics on our podcast is that we might release something, you might see it in a newsletter and you might go, that sounds boring. But when actually you hear someone talk about it and the way it can be used and what it can be done with the system, you think, oh, actually, that can be a differentiator to some extent for us in how we engage with our clients. Now, what they've done is they've launched forms. Wow, forms. I mean, forms have been around for ages, right? But the power of FYI and its automation engine actually massively accentuates what you can do with forms. So firstly, the Forms beta, as it obviously just been released, is for all elite users. So there's many plans inside FYI. Elite is essentially the top plan, and the Forms section in that, the beta level, is only for that plan. But it allows you to send out forms internally or externally to then get them completed, and that can be done automatically as part of workflows. Now, why is this important? Well, as we're definitely going into this phase, people have mentioned it a few times of making tax digital for income tax. Gathering data becomes critical. That is the biggest pain point where we're increasing the cadence of our engagement with clients. It was horrible to try and get tax return information on a yearly basis, and now we're having to get this on a more regular basis. So what do we want to be able to do to make that much more pleasant or much more, not enjoyable, but less painful for us, is to have something where it can just automatically go out or upon review from anything we're doing on I guess our normal tasks or normal daily work. And the way the automation engines work in FYI, you essentially build it as part of a data flow. So it could be, I'm doing this work, it's getting to the point where I would normally, as part of a year-end accounts process or from a tax return process, I need to gather information from a client. Or it might be I need to gather some basic data, or I need to pose a question and then see what their response is. You can have that automatically go out to the client, extract that information and put it back into a structure that you need inside FYI, be that custom fields, and then report on it. So as part of a regular thing, you could be saying, okay, we're now sending out tax return information, what's come in, where's it been populated, what information we got, what we're missing, trigger the whole cycle again. But only for those that haven't sent it in. So you're not bombarding people all the time, but you've got a smart automation engine that's going out there and going, what do I need? And that doesn't just have to be for clients. So something that should be and is awfully done in pretty much every accounting firm I've been is get feedback on where your staff are at. Like mentally, well-being is critical, but especially when we've got it's so hard to recruit and retain great talent in accounting firms. Keeping, I guess, regular updates, regular awareness on where your staff's mindset, headspace is at, is something I think should become more and more important. You've got these really advanced HR systems, but a lot of the time it's just asking questions in a really regular way and then getting something that can interpret that. And so if you've gathered this, you've got this automated form, it's bringing in data. And then, as I guess, Leigh, you were talking about earlier, you can then wrap an AI wrap around this to go ingest the sentiment of this and give me a red flag on anything you think is where someone doesn't sound their self. You'll be gathering this on a regular basis. You've got all kind of the history. How is someone talking in a different way? Is there something that maybe we should then, from a personal level, engage? So we're not saying replace the personal stuff. It's just be smarter, get insights, get data to enable you to be more directed. And because, we're all busy people, you can then know I need to have that chat with someone. They're not happy about this, or actually they feel they've done really well in this. And I need to give them feedback. So you can work with clients, you can work internally. It could be something where you're thinking it's boring, it's forms, but integrated with a really powerful automation engine, which is inside FYI, you can do a lot with it. And I think that is something that, once again, sounds basic, sounds boring, I think is a really good release.
Yeah, it just sounds great and it's a good feature. And I think what you've just done there is a bit of a product marketing masterclass, to be honest, Ryan, because vendors, I don't want to single FYI out on this because they tend to do this reasonably well. Like I've got an email from Ian, he's done a recording for this and showing stuff. But what vendors tend to do is release functionality and then the product team will write what the functionality is and they'll say what it does, what the feature does, what the buttons do. But they very rarely say, here's the use cases, like here's how you can apply this new thing to get people excited about it. And what you're relying on is very busy people sitting there and going to spend half an hour twiddling their thumbs thinking, okay, how can I now use this feature? So I really think you've got to feed people these use cases to get them excited about these things. And those examples that you've given there, Ryan, are fantastic.
Yeah, they're just, they're things obviously I've experienced in accounting firms. I think that's part of it. If you are a software vendor out there, you need someone, even if it's on a fractional level, that's engaged in an accounting firm, that has been through, small, medium, large, depending on where you're at, your software's aimed at or targeted at, to be able to give this feedback. Like, this is what we're going to release. Where can we use it? And then you can just build it in, as you say, into your marketing. And then, it's better. It makes people think. It's just creative, right? And there might be accounting firm owners that are going, I'm never going to use that, like what Ryan just said. But hopefully it gives them some thoughts, some things that go, oh, but I could use it in this case instead, because it's now triggering that creativity or that creative element inside me.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, as I said, that's probably a perfect place to wrap up this week's App News and this week's show. So thank you again for listening. If you have not signed up to our newsletter, please do so, because you get these articles early on. Once again, you won't get amazing context, right? That's why you listen to us. But you do at least know what's been released earlier, because as you've seen, some of the stuff that we discuss, and because as it's a quiet period at the moment, but around shows, as Leigh said, it gets really busy and we can't talk about all these features. It does mean that you're going to see what's been released as soon as you can. As Leigh mentioned earlier as well, if you are interested in attending or nominating someone for our award show, keep your eyes and ears peeled. We'll be talking about this more and more over the coming weeks and months. It's something that has been growing in, what's the right term?
Momentum,
yeah. I was thinking people are liking this more and more. I love it, right? I love our award show. I always feel like I'm bigging ourselves up, but I just love what we do. I love recognizing those that are great in this space. And I think that there was a lot of people at the end of, or that I spoke to after last year, that said, oh, I really wish I could have come. So I think we're probably going to sell out this year. So if you are wanting to come, please do keep your eyes peeled so you can get on the early registration list and make sure you can attend. It'll be in Manchester. It'll be in September, I believe. And it's a great little evening. It is not like a normal award show. You are not wearing a shirt and tie. You can if you want, but it is dressed down. It's just a lot of fun. And we also award, we also recognize some people for some great contributions throughout the year at the same time. So, but look, thanks again for listening, and tune in for the show next week.